What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Samuel Richards, Common Sense Bodybuilding, and today we're going to be talking about how you can try and be slightly safer while you're taking anabolic compounds. This video is off the back of obviously the video I made on the recent mortalities within the sport of bodybuilding and my commentary on safer use and advocacy for it. So this is going to give you a bit of a guide as to how you can monitor, try and stay on top of health while you're on cycle using anabolics, and hopefully this will be useful for a lot of you. This is going to cover everything from how you monitor to how you combat health issues. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I do want to briefly touch on the importance of this for any of you who maybe haven't seen my latest videos on the issues within the sport of bodybuilding, but this is incredibly important because there are some easy, simple steps that you can take to ensure that you're using anabolics in a safer way. Quite simply, they can lead to, heart failure, heart issues, heart attacks, extreme hypertension. They can lead to the ventricles in the heart expanding and growing, hypertrophy of the heart. They can lead to so many issues, although I will never say that you can do anabolics safely. A lot of these at least can have the chances reduced and your possibility of exposure to some serious health conditions hopefully mitigated. And this is all through the safer use model popularized by Victor Black. There are great videos on his channel. He does a lot of content on Instagram, which can help to guide you towards how to practice a safer use model of taking anabolics. But there are some general basic principles, and that's using the minimum effective dose, making sure you're supplementing for health, getting your health checks, choosing certain compounds, but I'll save that for another video or for Victor himself to explain. So let's get into it and let's talk about how you can monitor health while you're on a cycle, the important part where you can actually find out just how healthy you are currently and work to improve on those factors. So one of the really easy ways that you can monitor health first and foremost is through blood tests. This is the basic essentials that I recommend for anybody who's exposing themselves to drugs. This enables you to check most markers. It's pretty much the most widely accepted way of monitoring health conditions globally. There's a reason why blood markers are utilized everywhere from China to Russia, the US, the UK. It's because we know that they work to be able to show early signs of stress or diseases within the body. You should be aiming to get a comprehensive hormone panel, a comprehensive lipid profile, organ checks, red blood cell counts. The one that I recommend is always going to be the most comprehensive one that you can afford. I personally go for this, either the TRT Plus check with MediChecks or the sports hormone checks with MediChecks. Both retail between £100 and £150 a time. You want to be doing this at the very least before and on cycle. And you want to also ideally be doing this after your cycle to check that everything's returned back to how it was pre-cycle. Obviously, I'm not going to delve into how to read bloods. If you go with a good organization like MediChecks, you'll get doctor's notes. They'll be able to tell you what is worth worrying about, what isn't, with the context of you and your body. You can fill out your personal information. If you want to go and use them, I'll put a link in the description. There's, I believe Josh Bridgman, my coach, also has a code for them. So it's definitely worth using that to save a bit of money because these can add up over the year. But that's my minimum barrier to entry. If you can't afford to do blood tests, you can't afford to do anabolic steroids. I'm sorry, but it's not worth the risk. Number 2, for monitoring, one of these bad boys. So I actually have a blood pressure monitor, which I use. Pretty much everyone does within bodybuilding because it's so cheap, so simple. So this is a USB machine. You just plug it into your computer or a power source. It can read it. It takes roughly sort of a minute to do. Put the cuff around your arm. Very, very simple. Pretty much sort of £15-20 maximum on Amazon. You can get yourself a good, reliable one. And you want to be doing that a good few times a week. Some people do it daily. Some people do it once a week. Personally, I'm between once and twice a week. And you want it to be ideally under 120/80 with a decently low resting heart rate. So monitoring this just enables you to see, okay, where is my blood pressure at any one time, as well as your resting heart rate, and you can at least then increase your supplementation and monitor it on a frequent basis for free once you buy that little machine, which costs £15-20. Now, returning back to the line of sort of blood tests, the other tests that I'd recommend you get done at least on an annual basis is an echocardiogram. You can also get an fMRI where they dye your blood and check sort of your heart health through that method. That's a bit more comprehensive. So those 2 tests, basically whatever you can afford, at the very least an ECG once a year ideally. These can cost between sort of £200 and £400 looking in the United Kingdom. Honestly though, this is going to be one of the easiest ways to track your heart health. And your heart is quite simply your biggest chance of an early grave. So keeping on top of this, monitoring this cannot be understated. Your blood test will not show you the full picture. Now, from those monitoring aspects, you can then look to help to build up a supplement stack, a nutrition plan, which helps to counteract any potential issues you're seeing from your anabolics use. Now, obviously, there's the option where when levels are just completely out of whack, you should just back off. There's no way you're supplementing yourself out of a massive hole. What you want to do is you want to make sure that, first of all, your levels are within moderate elevation at most. Anything that's actually worrying or that they say, you should really reconsider your use, you should reconsider your use. Multivitamin, telmisartan, it cannot work miracles, but it can bring you from slight elevation back down near normality. So that's personally what I've done. Over time, my supplement stack has grown. I started off with a basic on-cycle therapy stack, which covered my key organs. And then from there, I monitored where my health was through blood tests, through blood pressure monitoring, and I established what supplement stack was right for me to help to combat the issues. So I'll give you a brief rundown of how I've done so. The first things that I added in was a multivitamin. Simple, easy, every single person should be using a multivitamin. This is just the cheapest one I could find. It just so happens to be a men's one, not that that's any difference actually. And then omegas. Omegas I do believe everybody should be using. You don't need omega-3, 6, 9, you just need omega-3. You get enough 6 and 9 through your diet. It's 3 that we're deficient in. A good high quality one is ideal, and again, quite inexpensive. And then what are the organs that I want to be protecting as standard? And I don't want to be waiting for signs that I should be. Well, ideally, my liver and kidneys, and this supplement does it both. It's Live Plus by Swiss Bioenergetics. It's just got stuff like NAC, turmeric, choline, and a few other bits there which help to keep my liver health on track. And through blood tests, I can tell that that works. So when it works, when I can see that I'm not facing any elevation, it's in perfect levels, then I don't need to do anything. I don't need to react, don't need to increase it. If that number starts to move, obviously, I can start to introduce more specialized supplements for that individual organ. Then we've got Cardio Defense by Swiss Bioenergetics once again. And this has got stuff like B1, CoQ10, D-ribose, B12, MCT, L-carnitine. It's got lots of supplements within one, which is basically is a comprehensive heart stack. It seems to work fairly well for me. I do actually have other supplements to aid my heart, but that's because it's a particularly stressed organ in the game of bodybuilding. But stuff like those, sort of the natural health supplements initially, are going to be your best bet as the basis of any health cycle. You can buy an all-in-one cycle support, and I'll link some down in the description. They are effective, but they are fairly expensive for not a wide range of supplements within one product. At the end of the day, you end up taking a ridiculous amount of tablets of one thing, and it's not very specialized. It's not very easy to edit it. Yes, you can use it as a base and build up from there, but I find it much cheaper to just simply buy the individual supplements to cover the issues that I personally feel are most important. And I can actually then check the ingredients of each supplement and decide on which brand of supplement I use for that individual organ based on the ingredient profile and whether I think certain ingredients are more key than others. Whereas an all-in-one supplement, you kind of have to search for the one that you agree is covering the most important factors. So what have I added in since then? Well, I've added in GI juice, greens, and digestive enzymes just to keep my vitamins again on track. And because I'm in the off-season, so off-season bodybuilders, greens powder is a great one for health, just to make sure you're getting your micronutrients. Now, I had an issue with elevated heart rate. It was in the 90s, so I introduced taurine. As you can see that. So these are 1,000 milligram tablets. I have been superdosing at about 2,000 to 4,000 milligrams per day. This has helped. It's reduced the amount of heart palpitations and issues I've had there. It's reduced my heart rate down over time, so that's really benefited me. And I've also introduced ubiquinol, which is a purer, more bioavailable form of CoQ10 on top of my Cardio Defense supplement, because CoQ10, honestly, is one of the greatest all-round health supplements you can take. Full stop, and ubiquinol is the best form of that. Now we're on to the big dog, the pharmaceutical supplements. Telmisartan. You just can't beat it. It's an ARB, and basically it helps to reduce blood pressure, reduce stress on certain organs. There's a lot of scientific data out there that suggests that it could have multiple uses for health. I just think that it's done amazing things for me. It's brought my blood pressure down when it hit nearly 140, back down to reference range. And the basal dose for that is 40 milligrams per day. I personally have brought that up to 60 personally, just because my heart rate and stuff needed addressing, as I mentioned. And then again, for those of you like myself who may be worried about insulin sensitivity, metformin is a great one. So I just take 500 milligrams of that end of each day. If you're heavily bulking or using growth hormone, this is another great cheap addition to your stack in order to make sure that your body's operating efficiently. So that's a basic overview of my supplementation that's been built up over years of blood tests, health monitoring, and making sure that I get what's right for me. This isn't for you to copy, this is for you to see why I added in each element. Then you can get an idea, like, okay, so Sam is concerned about his heart rate, his blood pressure, so he's added in talmosartan, ubiquinol, taurine. That's the reason why his health supplement stack is where it is. It's not that I'm sponsored and I just have 101 supplements from the same company because it's like, better take it than not. Like, these are all specifically designed to give me a result, because I don't believe in spending like £300 a month on health supplements, which might or might not help. I believe in specially selecting your supplement stack, keeping it as cost effective as possible, but making sure that it's also as effective as possible for your individual needs. But we shouldn't just supplement for the sake of it. We should also look at our diet and nutrition, and this is one area where you can look to make some serious changes. For example, you can take all the cod liver oil in the world. In my opinion, fresh fish, oily fish is going to be still the better option to help with stuff like cholesterol, lipids. Personally, I recommend, getting fish in at least a couple of times a week, so that's salmon. I watched Seaspiracy. I didn't want to, but honestly, after seeing my HDL tanked, I knew that I need to make a change, and it has really helped to increase that HDL number. It was the best it's ever been recently, not that that is anything to shout about, because it has been and still is pretty terrible, but either way, it showed an elevation, which is the important thing compared to just supplementing fish oil. You also need to make sure you're getting at least one portion of sort of greens in per meal. As I say, I understand on a bulk that's not always possible, so GI juice, a digestive enzyme and greens powder is a great one to add in, especially to make sure your digestive tract is dealing with the food, not just to make sure you're getting your micronutrients in if it's got those enzymes included within the supplement. But keeping fresh food is always going to be the best way about it. You want a variety, you want different forms of fruit and vegetables for different reasons, different vitamins, minerals, and just for a variety of diet, right? It's always better to have a variety than one thing. Nobody likes just having broccoli with every single meal. You ain't going to have broccoli in your cream of rice now, are you? So another thing that you can do in order to monitor your health or manage your health on cycle is to slowly introduce compounds into your stack. Now, this is something that I see a lot of people make a mistake with. They run multiple compounds in their first cycle. The reason why you do testosterone only is because you can then see how you individually react to testosterone, which is the base steroid. If you don't go on with testosterone, you're pretty fucked in the world of anabolics. But it also enables you to isolate that one compound, understand the side effect profile, understand how you convert estrogen, all those kind of issues which you really need to grasp on. Say if you do a first cycle of testosterone, maybe you want to add in another compound. I wouldn't recommend doing that on your second cycle, but if you really must, then you can add in, say, a primobolan. Fairly well tolerated compound that's got a lot of scientific literature on it, and that's widely accepted as one of the best drugs for safer use models. You add in that one individual compound into your stack. What do you now have? You have a compound you fully understand the side effect profile of, you know what to expect from that, and you have one unknown. So when issues come up which you have not experienced, you can tell and attribute that directly to primobolan. You know that's the issue, whether it's the dose or the compound in its heart, or whatever it might be. Clearly the issue is stemming from that. This is also why I recommend, say, if you're going to do testosterone again, another compound, keep the test dose the same, because this enables you to completely control testosterone. Because if you increase that by 100 milligrams per week and then you add in primobolan, you can't always be sure that the issue stems from the primobolan. So, I know that it's not as romantic as doing really complicated RFBB Pro emulating cycles, but at the end of the day, you don't need all these different compounds. They all do pretty much the same job in a slightly different way. So I would honestly recommend starting slow, introduce things individually, and then you're able to attribute any issues that come up to a specific cause and either remove that or do something about it, tweak the doses, that kind of thing. And the last point, but a really, really important one, is activity levels. So personally, during prep, I went between 8,000 steps a day and 10,000 steps a day. This is to ensure that, obviously I'm getting a lot of list activity in, my basal calorie burn was fairly high, and I've continued this throughout the off season. My goal is still 10,000 steps a day, and I still hit it on average through the week. This is really important, make sure that you're being active, you're not just sitting on the sofa all day, because at the end of the day, a low activity level is going to lead to a worse cardiovascular system, loads of other health issues. It's no way to live your life, especially when you're in the off season, you're bulking up, and you're not healthy to begin with. So a step count per day is what I would absolutely recommend, and I would absolutely recommend 10,000. I think that it's more than manageable for most people, especially if you work in the city or something. You can easily hit 12 to 15,000 without even trying. At most, for me, it involves a half an hour walk on top of my usual daily routine. And then, of course, cardiovascular activity. Now, I do obviously recommend this as something which I'm by no means good enough at. And I'm never going to preach to you that I'm perfect with things when I'm not, because that's not a realistic reflection of every single person who's just trying to be as optimal as possible. But we all have fucking flaws. And I wish I was perfect. It might help to control some of these markers more. And I'll be striving to be better every single day. But cardiovascular activity is something that's really important. Just list activity, whether it's an incline walk on a treadmill, a Stairmaster, a bike, whatever it is, even in the off season, try and get at least 2 or 3 cardio sessions in per week. In prep, you're going to be doing that every day, so you don't really need to worry too much about that. But of course, during prep, health is the least of your concerns. So keeping activity level high, from steps to cardio and just day-to-day activity, maybe find stuff that challenges you, that requires you to be active outside of the gym, is very important. That can be an easy win to lower blood pressure, lower your heart rate, increase lung capacity. Loads of issues can be helped through the use of low impact steady state cardio. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be ensuring that you have stuff like a blood pressure monitor, you're getting blood checks, you're getting an ECG. You want to make sure that you're building a supplement stack off the results of those checks, but you already have a basal level supplement stack which can cover most of the variables which can be affected by anabolics use. You want to make sure that your nutrition is catering to your individual micronutrient needs and you're getting a varied diet. You want to make sure that you're individually introducing compounds and picking compounds which are in their nature more tolerable than stuff like Tren or 19-Nors. And you want to make sure your activity levels are high. Follow all those steps, and my hope is that that has a positive impact on your health. If you're not doing any one of them, I hope at least that one element can help move you in the right direction. But there's always time for self-reflection, and if things are really out of whack, you need to consult a doctor. But I'm not a doctor. If you're facing serious issues, you need to make sure you speak to a doctor. I'm just here to tell you what I do personally to keep my health in check. If you found any of this information valuable, you want to see more content like this, please like the video. It does more than anything right now to help the channel. And subscribe and click the bell to see more common sense bodybuilding tips. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.